Hello and welcome to Wayports Racing League Season 2, Round 7 from Blackwood Rallycross in Live for Speed. You're watching Division 1 here. I'm Peter Butcher and I'm joined again in the commentary box by Adam Brown. Good afternoon, Adam.
Good afternoon, Pete. Yeah, this is, well, as you can see by what's on your screen right now, we've got Round 7 at Blackwood Rallycross. So this is a brand new challenge for the drivers. Well, for some of the drivers, we had Rallycross last season. But yeah, some mixed surface racing here. This is going to be crazy. This is going to have all sorts of challenge and sort of a new experience for a lot of these drivers.
Yeah, definitely a lot of new things happening today for the drivers, as you mentioned, because not only have we got some tarmac that they will be familiar with, aka the home straight and some of the back straight, but we have two gravel sections with some jumps. And some of the drivers in practice for this event have certainly struggled, haven't they, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, looking at Andy's times and what Andy's been doing, we're used to him being, faster than Mariano, but Andy's been struggling. He's almost a second off Mariano's pace, which is very rare. But it's be interesting to see what happens in the race and in qualifying and how things evolve.
Yeah, qualifying is a different beast to the race. It doesn't matter really what Mariano or Andy's pace is in qualifying, because that only really separates them by, only a couple of meters. And actually, in Rallycross, Adam, if you remember, you don't really get any advantage other than your positioning laterally across the track in Rallycross because you start side by side. So yeah, we'll see. We have a 19-lap race this afternoon kicking off at 2:15 around this 1.8 kilometre, 1.2 mile circuit in Live for Speed, the simulator that we're using for Wayports Racing League Season 2. And the car, which everybody who's watched the last 6 rounds should be familiar with, is the XF GTI, a 1.3 litre inline-4 front-engined front-wheel drive car, generating 115 brake horsepower and weighing in at just under a tonne. A lot of fun on the jumps, Adam.
Yeah, definitely. It's the jumps, as you say, we've got some massive jumps here. Something to look forward to. There'll be a lot of chaos going over these, as we see on board with Mariano here. Going around the first turn and into the second turn as well, the first jump. Not much of a jump, really, but certainly get a bit of air there.
Yeah, we've got our first lap time in on the board, and it would appear that Andy has set the first lap time, so he's been the first out onto the track, and he's the first person to set a lap. And it's actually the best lap that we've seen from him in practice, Adam. Very close to his personal best, actually. So yeah, this is promising.
Yeah, I wonder if he'll improve much. I mean, looking at his driving, he's certainly got some stable control over the car, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's fast.
Yeah, Mariano's coming around the final couple of corners to set his first time. We'll see what he can set from the outset. Of course, especially on Rallycross, Adam, it's very, very important to have your tyres up to temperature. And on screen right now is Wellington, who is a returning driver. He replaces Camilla in the Argentinian Interlink team. So yeah, Camilla will take no further part in this Season 2, but Wellington will take over for the remainder of the season as Mariano goes P2, some 4/10 behind Andy.
Yeah, well, that's a bit of a surprise. As we were saying, Mariano's, his personal best is over a second faster than that lap he's set. So we'll be looking to see how he improves over the session. Well, as per usual, he's always one to improve as the qualifying session goes on.
Absolutely. Let's have a look at the Drivers' Championship as it stands. Mariano for Interlink France currently in the lead by 10 points ahead of Andy for Strings. Then it's Valentina a little way off in P3. Then it's Santiago very close behind. Then Ian for Bundles, William for Interlink Brazil, Felipe for Bundles, Eduardo for Interlink Argentina, Arthur for Interlink Brazil, and Camilla there in 10th for Interlink Argentina. Wellington will be trying to score points now for that second place in the Interlink Argentina team. But yes, over in the Teams Championship, it's a familiar story up the front. It's the two teams that have been squabbling for the entirety of this season. Interlink France leading Strings 206 to 188 points. Then we've got Bundles, the number 83 there, and Interlink Brazil with 40 points, and Interlink Argentina at the back with 27. So still 5 teams competing in this championship, and it's pretty close at the top still, which is encouraging with only 4 rounds remaining.
As you were taking us through the championship standings there, Pete, looks like Mariano's beaten Andy, but only by 400th of a second, so it is quite close at the top there.
Yeah, we do
Also-
expect Mariano to get into the 11s, don't we?
Yeah, we do expect him to improve from there. I mean, we're not sure how much, but definitely to get down into the 11s. We're not sure if Andy will follow suit.
No, as we ride on board with Mariano into the final sector, this is where you turn off of the back straight of Blackwood GP and onto this gravel section, which takes you to the penultimate corner of the regular road course. There is an Interlink Brazil car slightly ahead of Mariano. Hopefully it won't hinder him on his lap. Nope, doesn't look like it. Over this bit of curb here on the left, then hug the curb round to the right, and then over the crest and down to start another lap. Will he improve on this lap? 1:12.20. Yes, he does. 1:12.04.
Yeah, I think it's also interesting to note, if you look down there in 7th place, we've got Santiago from Strings, who's normally, you know, on the bottom step of that podium in 3rd, at least in qualifying. He's normally much more competitive.
And Andy's just set a personal best. He's done 900 and something laps around this track, and that is the perfect time to set a personal best in qualifying, a 1:11.84. He's pulled it out of the bag when he needed to. We know Mariano can go quicker than that, but can he do it when it matters in the qualifying session? 3 minutes to go, Adam.
Yeah, it doesn't look like Mariano will challenge on this lap, as his split time isn't looking that fast, but there definitely is still plenty of time to challenge that. Mariano should get a couple more laps in, as should Andy.
Yeah, Mariano just coming around the final corner now. We're on board with Andy as he heads through into the final sector, but here comes Mariano round the final corner. Let's see, can he improve? He's only got a couple more laps left. If he wants to improve, will it be an improvement? Adam says no, and so does the timing tower. Mariano didn't improve on that one. Here comes Andy. Can he improve on his PB from last time? There is a significant gap between the top two and the rest of the field. Eduardo for Interlink Argentina currently in P3. Here comes Andy across start-finish. Can he improve? He does, and it's an 11.5, Adam.
Yeah, that's a very, very good time. Mariano has done a faster time than this, but not in practice before the race, in an earlier practice session.
So that's interesting, isn't it? Andy has, as I mentioned before, 900 laps registered on the online database, and none of them were that fast. So perhaps he's been doing some offline training. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I would have to say that would be the case, because it's very rare for someone to find over half a second around such a short track in qualifying. So
maybe Andy just performs well under pressure. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, there's performing well under pressure and performing that well under pressure. It's definitely something interesting going on there.
Definitely. We'll have to ask him after the event. But anyway, here comes Mariano up to the line. Can he beat Andy? Here we go. He does not improve on this attempt, so it's looking like he's on the ropes once again. Andy is setting the pace in a remarkable turn of events. We just didn't expect this, Adam.
Yeah, Andy obviously just reaffirming his ability in qualifying, the ability to set the fastest lap over a single lap. They both should get 2 more laps here, so there's plenty of time for Mariano to come back, but can he improve by half a second? I'm not sure if he can.
Other drivers are improving in this session. Valentina just set a new PB, going almost a quarter of a second quicker than her previous best. She's currently in P6 for Interlink France. Importantly, just behind Santiago, who has improved. So the battle further down for the number 2 drivers in these teams, if it's fair to say that, is spicy as well.
Yeah, definitely. Santiago was all the way in, back in 8th earlier in the session, and he's improved, which is, well, both of them will be happy to see that.
Mariano's going to get 1 more lap on the board. We're watching Santiago. Mariano's just coming over the crest of the hill. Here he is, across start finish, and he's only 16 hundredths off of Andy at the moment. Andy will not get another lap time, we're hearing. He is too far away from start finish with only 16 seconds left. So yeah, Mariano, this is it. He's got to get this lap on the board, and it's got to be quick. Let's watch him as he heads around. Andy is done. He will not improve on his already amazing lap time, considering what we expected from him today. Over the first jump goes Mariano, and then on this short stretch down to The next corner where you turn onto the back straight of the regular Blackwood GP track. Important not to run it too wide. You don't want to go onto the grass on the opposite side of the track, and he doesn't. And then he just has to nail this next apex. You don't want to run too wide here either. He's gone a little bit wide, but he'll be able to get the car under control for this really tricky series of jumps. Even with this low-powered car, it's still really difficult to get the perfect line. Out onto the road course he goes again. One more corner to go. Can he improve? Adam, take it away.
Looked like a very fast split there, and he's definitely on track, but I'm not sure he's fast enough. That second split was not good enough, and he's not improved. So, out of nowhere, Andy from Strings has put it on pole.
Yeah, William will be the final car to set a lap in qualifying, and it's a 1:17.62 best for him in this session. Andy for Strings has done it again. He's taken pole position, the first job that he needed to do. But encouragingly, it's really close at the front. Look at that. Only a handful of, 1600 separating those two at the front. Let's get a full rundown of the order before we get the race underway in just a few moments' time. Adam, take it away.
Yeah, so, Andy from Strings, as we know, on pole, put it on pole with a 1:11.56. Mariano in second with a 1:11.72, 0.16 slower than Andy. Definitely one of the smaller gaps we've seen up front over the whole season. In third, we've got Eduardo from Interlink Argentina putting in a very respectable result there with a 1:13.11. And Ian from Bundles in fourth with a 1:13.8. Santiago only a tenth behind him in fifth. Valentina from Interlink France in sixth with a 1:14.04. Felipe from Bundles, again, very close, only about 600ths behind in seventh. Wellington from Interlink Argentina, our newcomer for, this season in eighth with a 1:16.74, and William from Interlink Brazil with a 1:17.62. So that's our grid for today, Pete. How do you feel about this?
I'm pretty happy about that, to be honest. The top two, obviously, a league of their own, as they have been pretty much most of the season. But yes, look at the battle from P3 down to P7, especially. The gaps are really close there, less than a second separating those drivers. So it looks like all eyes are going to be on the front two and the midfield. And yeah, with a small sized grid, it's really encouraging to see that we do have a race in prospect. And that'll be coming up in just a few moments' time. Because we're going to be heading for, as I mentioned before, 19 laps around this track. And that is a lot of laps, and a lot of things can happen, Adam. They're going to have to go over the jumps nearly 40 times in that small period of time. And when you're going side by side with the drivers in this series, anything can happen, especially on the run down to turn one even.
Yeah, in the run down to turn one, in a grid like this where we've got drivers three abreast right behind each other, this is going to be a crazy turn one. Definitely something to look out for.
Certainly is. I hope you can join us for the race in a couple of moments' time. We're going to go for a quick break. Don't go anywhere. Hello and welcome back to coverage of Wayports Racing League Season 2, round number 7 from Blackwood Rallycross. I'm Peter Butcher, and in the commentary box with me for this one is Adam Brown. Adam, we just saw a very, very interesting qualifying session with a result we did not expect.
Yeah, interesting result there. Obviously, Andy came out of nowhere. I mean, it's not so much a surprise to see him on pole, but it definitely was at this race coming up right now in just a few seconds.
Yeah, I think that's very much fair to say, Adam. And as we take our attention to the track for the start of the race, and who is going to be the driver who makes it into turn one first, I wonder.
Yeah, as you can see, slightly abnormal grid, three abreast, but away they go. Andy with a good start, so did Mariano, but Eduardo on the outside, surprisingly. Just out of shot, looked like he got away well. Three
we've
wide.
got a Bundles car. That's a collision straight into the side of Eduardo. And
Mariano's
been
round.
Spun. Yeah, so as we expected, there is some chaos at the first corner. I believe we can apportion blame to Ian from Bundles for that one. He yet again gets into trouble in the first lap. It seems to be an absolute common occurrence. for the bundles driver. And where is Mariano? Mariano is so far down with damage this time as well. He has some damage on his car, so that's going to be a painful race for him, as Andy has been given a gift. Valentina up to second after the start. Felipe in P2. He's going to challenge straight away. Well, sorry, in P3, he's going to challenge for P2, though, straight away. And there we go. He's up into that second position. And as they head into the second Rallycross stage for the first time this race, Adam, what a start we've had. Oh, as we've got a huge contact between Valentina.
That is massive. That's a lot of damage there for both the bundle cars and for... I think Valentina got lucky there, but more chaos on the opening lap there.
Yeah,
Mariano lucky.
Like to see that, really, as Mariano, he's got so much work to do here. He's coming past Santiago. Santiago just not on pace today, as we normally see him. He's normally right up there on the pace, but as you can see, Mariano's getting past him quite easily. And look at the car ahead. That is quite a mess. That is Felipe's car after that contact with Valentina, and that's Mariano getting past. Mariano up to P3 then, but some 10 seconds behind. Eduardo pits, and so does Ian. Ian had to pit. He had to come in. He had to repair that damage. He didn't want another race where he had super amounts of damage on his car. That does mean that Valentina is in P2 then, and Mariano is trying to close down that gap in P3. And there's a fight on behind between Santiago and Felipe.
Yeah, Felipe is, well, he was looking good, but that damage is definitely not going to make him faster than Santiago. He gets a massive slide going into turn 6 there. Yeah, that damage, I'm surprised he didn't pit on the opening lap, because that is, crazy amount of damage at the rear.
I wonder if he does pit now. We have had a retirement from the race, I believe. Eduardo did retire, but he's back in the race now. Will Felipe pit on this lap? The pit lane entry is just on the left there. No, he doesn't. He carries on for another lap. Mariano with the fastest lap, and he needs it. He absolutely needs it every lap now. We're on lap 3 of 19, and he's got a 9.4 second deficit to close down in this race.
Yeah, I mean, Andy's got a 10-second lead. Well, almost 10-second lead, but if he squanders it, if he goes too slow, if he takes it too easy, there's definitely an opportunity there for Mariano to sort of claw it back. Because Mariano, as we saw in practice, is quite fast around this track, and Andy maybe doesn't have the same consistency as he does.
Yeah, Santiago has just got past Valentina with relative ease there, I have to say. Valentina took it very, carefully actually, throughout the first Rallycross stage, and there we are. That means that Santiago's up to third. Felipe looking to try and get past as well. Felipe has damage that we're more used to seeing on Ian's car, but Ian's already repaired his today. But it seems to be a bit of a curse for bundles as Valentina gets it all wrong.
Yeah. Valentina into the wall there. Luckily, if you're careful enough that you won't get too much damage from the walls, but if you keep on hitting them, definitely not going to do you any good. So you can see the rear track of that car is slightly narrower than it should be.
Yeah, definite damage hampering Valentina's progress in this race. Mariano is he's setting the timing screens alight, Adam. He's brought the gap down to just under 9 seconds now, but there are a lot of laps left, and he's got to make it pretty clean for the whole race. We've got Valentina and Felipe still going at it at the back, and they're being closed down a little bit by the lapped car of Eduardo as Wellington rejoins the race. So not going to be a good afternoon for Interlink Argentina, as that's Eduardo kind of bullying Felipe out of the way there into a spin.
Yeah, big shame for Eduardo, because he qualified third. He was looking incredibly fast, but
he got tagged on the opening lap, didn't he, by Ian? So.
Tagged on the opening lap, then took a big long pit stop and had to rejoin the race. Very flamboyant line there through that turn 6, getting the tail out very wide. Definitely not the fastest way to go around that corner, but it works.
It does work as we turn our attention back to the number 7. Andy for Strings. He is 9 seconds ahead of Mariano for Interlink France after that first lap incident, and Mariano is left picking up the pieces once again. He can just about see Andy. Well, we can from the cameras. I don't think Mariano will be able to see him from his little cockpit. There's one way to find out as we ride on board with the man in P2, the championship leader still, although he hasn't won a race in quite a while, Adam.
Yeah, it's been I think it's 2 or 3 rounds where he hasn't seen the top step of the podium. It's definitely an opportunity here to grab that back. He is definitely closing the gap. It's mostly in the final sector where Mariano is far faster than Andy, but see if Andy can get it under control, because at the moment, if Mariano keeps closing the gap the way he is now, well, he will catch Andy before the end of this race.
Yeah, he just got a glimpse of Andy there, so we can definitely see that he is catching. But yeah, we have to remind you that Andy, of course, got the Triple Crown, the pole position, fastest lap, and the win, both of the previous rounds. He's already got one of those accolades, the pole position. So let's see. Mariano currently holds on to the fastest lap, but that can all change as he turns into turn one here. And the gap is down to just over 8 seconds. So if he keeps at this pace, Adam, it might be close at the end.
Well, yeah, definitely. Andy was, as you say, a bit faster that time around than he was the time before, but so is Mariano. So definitely the gap's closing.
Yep, we are 6 laps into this race at the end of this one, and the gap at the front is quite significant. And the story behind that is the same as well. All the drivers have sort of slotted themselves into a bubble. The closest 2 cars are Valentina and Felipe. The car just ahead of them is Eduardo, who drives off the track a little bit. He is a lap down and has to move out of the way for this battle. Let's ride on board with Felipe, as he's going to get Eduardo thinks better of that one. And onto the back straight they go. Eduardo choosing not to get involved in this fight. It is for position, and it is for big points, because Santiago is up the road, and if Valentina loses any more places, then it is advantage strings with the way that they currently sit.
Felipe gaining through this final sector. As we're hearing in my ear that the second place driver Mariano is in the pit lane. See where he comes out. If he comes out behind Santiago,
he pitted for 2.1 seconds, which is longer than his normal stops, so that's already some time being given back to Andy potentially. Santiago has got out ahead, so that's going to be difficult if he has to battle with him on track. No, it looks like he's got back through.
There's contact.
Yeah.
This is close. If Mariano gets slowed down too much by Santiago, this could be, well, the end of his chance for the win here.
Yeah, he's had to lift off. He doesn't want to get into any sort of contact with Santiago, and it's just hurting his lap times. He's struggling to decide which gear to choose at this point as well. So as he pulls onto the back straight, he's going to have to try and find a way past this Strings car as soon as possible. William for Intlink Brazil in the pits for his one and only stop. He's got some damage repair going on and some fuel happening, so that's going to be a while. And that will mean that he will go a lap down to Andy as he tears past one of the... that is Wellington. Mariano is still not found a way past Santiago, and I wonder what Santiago's going to do. Well, he's kind of just let him past at that point. He's just taken a wider line, and Mariano's got past.
Interesting one there.
Interesting.
You would have thought that Santiago would be one to keep defending, as of course Mariano's main rival is Santiago's teammate, but obviously Santiago wants to run his own race, obviously knows that he's not racing Mariano for position, so taking it easy there. But yeah, Andy with a massive lead up the front. He's not really, he knows he will know that Mariano's gone to the pits, and he knows that he's got to take every advantage now that he can. He's got to be as fast as he can so Mariano doesn't get any sort of undercut. And he has got away from Mariano as we see Andy go in the pits.
Yeah, he's got to be careful to slow the car down. There's no obvious line there to suggest where the pit lane starts and ends, but here we are. He's taken up position in his pit box, and it's
a slow stop.
Long stop. It's a long stop. He added some fuel in. It's 3.4 seconds. I still think he'll be out clearly ahead of Mariano, of course, and maybe with an advantage because of the amount of time that Mariano was held up behind Santiago. And look at the gap. Andy's turning into turn one. He's already round turn one. Mariano's only just gone over start-finish, so 12 seconds the gap nearly.
Well, I think that any extra time that Mariano has, that Andy had gained due to Mariano getting caught up in Santiago. He will have lost there in the pit stop, because that
Possibly,
was
yeah.
surprisingly long there. He was stopped for.
Let's see what happens. It was 8 and a bit just before the stop, and as Andy comes over the sector time here, we'll get a better indication of what that gap is, and then we will know how bad or how good Andy's pit stop was compared to the amount of time that Mariano lost behind his teammate. 8 seconds, the gap.
I would have to say that Mariano has still lost time there, because if he was, lapping at his proper speed for the rest of that time, he would have gained on Andy, but because he got slowed down, of course, he didn't.
Potential disaster for Interlink France and their chances in the teams championship at this stage of the championship, because Valentina's just timed out from the server. Her internet's let her down and she is out of the race. She will be able to rejoin if she can connect again, but yeah, that is potentially big for the teams championship. Valentina's been scoring some pretty good results recently. She is back in the server. Hopefully she can rejoin. There she is, and can score some points.
She will score a couple points there going around at the back, but it won't be anywhere near the tally that she was going to score. I believe she was in 4th. So definitely still a big loss of points there. A big shame for Interlink France, because they were managing to keep the gap to Strings in the points championship. But obviously it's going to look very different after the end of this round.
Yeah, I wonder whether it'll be enough for Strings to take the lead in the championship standings if it stays like this. Of course, the gap between Andy and Mariano is coming down. It's coming down significantly, Adam. It's down to 6.5 seconds, and we've still got 10 laps of this race to go.
Yeah, I wonder if Andy had made a mistake there, because going down about 1.5 seconds over one lap is definitely not what should be happening. Yeah, Andy with a very slow lap that time around, about a second and a half slower than what Mariano's been doing, as Mariano sets the new fastest lap.
Yeah, he's brought that gap down by another half a second in that sector, and look, Andy's now chasing a back marker. We're on board with Wellington, who is a newcomer to Season 2. Of course, he did take part in Season 1, but he's replaced Camilla for the Interlink Argentina team today, and Andy needs to find a way past as soon as possible. Wellington should move over and let him through, and he does. Andy is through nicely, but look at that in the background. Mariano is closing in, visibly closing in now, and it's like, yeah, he is being shown a carrot on a stick, isn't he?
The gap's down to 5 seconds now. He's really taking chunks out of that gap now. Mariano's seen red and is really going for it.
He is. I think Andy might be panicking a little bit. I don't know. But 5 seconds in one sector, that is a lot. Let's see what it is at the end of the lap. Mariano, beautiful power slide through the penultimate corner onto the road course. And there, you can see Andy. He just has Wellington, the back marker, in his way. As Andy crosses the line, it will be 8 to go. And yeah, Mariano is running out of time if he wants to end his winning drought. He was not happy in the commentary box with his interview last time, so he will be desperate to change his run of success here. 4.25 seconds the gap at the line, Adam.
Yeah, Andy is just, I don't know what's happened to his lap times, but he's, this time and the last lap around, he was over a second slower than, well, his personal best in this race.
Oh, Wellington!
Going very slowly.
I thought Wellington was going to maybe squeak a tap on the back of Mariano's car and couldn't get it slowed down, but did just about. Mariano had to take a little bit of a wider line. Eduardo, after rejoining the race, has decided to try another attempt at a pit stop, and it looks like a long one, so more bad news for Interlink Argentina. 4 seconds now the gap between these two. This is the battle of interest at the end of this race, and at the line it will be 7 laps to go, my mistake. And here we go. We are sizing up for a great battle. Of course, Mariano can catch up to the back of Andy, but he still has to get past.
Yeah, Andy obviously needs to get his head back in the game, because I don't know what's happened to him. A bit faster that time around in terms of lap time, but definitely not as fast as he needs to be.
No, I mean, Mariano had to get past the back marker, and he was still 0.3 of a second quicker on that lap as he comes into turn number 1. Perfect line, and you can just see the dust trail of Andy's car now. That is going to be perfect motivation for him. You can now see that car fully, and as he heads over the second jump, We're going to start to see how he can reel in this car. A wider line for Mariano. He likes to take this wider line on the entry to this long 180-degree corner on the gravel. There's Andy just streaking ahead in the distance. As Felipe takes his pit stop, he's currently in P4. Here he comes, leaving the pit lane. Did not decide to repair that damage, Adam, so he's going to carry on with that car.
Well,
a bit rough.
As we know, damage repair does take a lot of time, so he's obviously decided that the time it was going to take was not worth the repair.
Yeah, I think Mariano's had a slightly slower start to this lap. In fact, he may have made an error because Andy appears to have opened the gap up a bit. Let's see.
Yeah, I mean, Andy did have a much faster split, a more representative split, and it looks like he's going to set his fastest lap of the race. Nothing like Mariano's fastest lap.
Well, it was an 11.9. It was still very quick, but Mariano is now 3.6 seconds. So it's coming down, but it's not coming down fast enough. He needs to take half a second out of the German driver as quickly as possible in every sector of the lap now to the end. Only 5 laps to go after this one.
Looks like Wellington had to pit and rejoin, and so is Eduardo.
Again, more trouble.
As William going into contact almost with with Andy there.
Yeah.
Back marker racing the race leader. Bit of contact on the straight there.
Yeah, a little bit unnecessary. William did not need to be involved in that battle, and this could be. Oh, okay, so he hasn't rebounded. That's fortunate. I was a bit worried that he might have rebounded back into Mariano, but anyway.
It's not good for Andy. He's lost probably a second because of that, and well, Mariano is right behind him.
Yeah, 3.2 seconds at the last checkpoint. Let's see what it is as he comes across start-finish. Andy goes across start-finish now. We start the clock and we measure it at a lot less than it was before. 2.1 seconds with 5 laps to go.
Yeah, there's a chance that Andy can keep it if he just set some amazing lap times, but with Ian in front of him, with a lap down, this could be the last major sort of spanner in the works that Andy did not need.
Yeah, Ian is a pretty experienced driver in his own right, so he shouldn't make this too difficult for the 2 race leaders. Hopefully that poses no issue to Andy, but we said that about William, and look what happened. Here we go, onto the back straight, lap 15 of 19 here in Wayports Racing League Season 2, Round 7. At Blackwood Rallycross. That's Ian just going through your shot there, the back marker. Then Andy, who's leading the race. He is coming off a 2-victory streak at the moment, and Mariano hasn't had one since a few rounds ago. So here he comes. He has the fastest lap of the race, which is one of the things he wanted back. But 1.8 seconds now the gap, and Ian moves out of the way nicely, and we are left for a 4-lap grandstand finish here today.
Yeah, Andy manages to keep that gap to Mariano. I don't think it went down at all.
I think it stayed exactly the same. Oh, Andy's hit the wall. He's hit the apex of turn 1, literally. And here we go into the first sector. Mariano again, not sure what gear to use. He's a little bit high up. He's dabbing the clutch there to try and get some revs in it. Not ideal. Andy's able to pull away a little bit then in the first sector. And it's beginning to look like it's too little too late for me, but never say never in Wayports Racing League.
Yeah, Andy's obviously realised that if he doesn't find a turn of pace, he's going to lose that position, and yeah, he's got away from Mariano in that first sector. The gap is back over 2 seconds.
Yeah, Mariano taking a very, very smooth line in there. He doesn't put any unnecessary steering lock on his car, does he? He doesn't chuck the car in as Andy's coming under a bit of... Oh, he's been a little bit spooked by the back marker. That was Valentina, who was well out of the way. But now look.
He's lost a second there. This gap might be down underneath a second now. This is, well, incredible stuff there. Obviously, Valentino got out the way, but Andy just
0.7.
Didn't know what to do. Had a weird reaction to that.
Yeah,
and Andy's run wide in turn 1.
Yeah, we're going to see side-by-side action over the first jump, and it is, in fact, Andy who makes it ahead, only just, but he's not making this easy for himself at all. Mariano's sizing him up on the jump. This could go wrong. He doesn't have to rush this. He's got plenty of laps now to try and make this move. He just has to stay under the rear, under the boot lid of Andy's car and try and find a way past. He doesn't need to rush it, because if he makes a mistake and gets it wrong, he won't have another chance. He needs to take his time with this move. Mariano there chasing down Andy on the back straight.
You know, if these guys continue to go quickly, there is a Felipe up the road, and if Mariano doesn't get past Andy, well, with a move, there's definitely an opportunity for Felipe to get in the way there.
Yeah, Mariano would desperately like to get past Andy, I'm sure. I'm pretty sure Mariano would have known that Andy would have some pace, but with the lack of obvious practice from Andy going into this round, I'm sure he's pretty annoyed right now that he can't get this move done. 3/10 at the line, breaking down into the first corner, and he's nailed this one at this lap. He's way better on the brakes this time. Didn't go wide, and that's given Mariano more to think about. 2 laps to go.
Yeah, Andy with a sort of neutral line, leaving nowhere for Mariano to make a dive or to go around outside.
Lack of decision of which gear to be in. That just costs him so much time. He's just not in the right gear for that first sector, and Andy's just able to pull away. Clutch issues possibly for Mariano. I can hear it. You can hear the engine just.
I mean, if there's clutch issues, you would have thought he would want to use the clutch as little as possible, but he's pushing the clutch down. So I'm wondering what his reasoning behind that for doing
trying
that
to get more revs, and it's just not helping. Maybe the setup. Maybe in the end it is going to be the setup that lets him down. 2 corners to go, and it'll be 1 lap, which will be the difference between Andy being on the top step again and not. Let's see, can he do it? This is going to be probably the battle of the season so far, I have to say. Mariano was 10 seconds behind at the beginning of this race, and over the duration he's managed to claw it down. Andy had a longer pit stop, but Mariano was caught up a little bit with Andy's teammate. And as we go into the first sector again, can Mariano sort these gears out? He's gone up to, what is that, 3rd? And he's using the clutch again, as you can hear, but he's a lot better this time. He had a lot more momentum, and he's certainly closer, but he's going to have to make this move in the last sector. He's gone wide.
Well, look who's ahead of them as well is Felipe. Felipe should be able to continue driving and not have to slow down for the blue flags, but this is going to be very close.
Santiago pits on the final opportunity for him, but he's miles behind these guys in 3rd place. This is the battle for the lead. I don't think Felipe is going to get involved. He's just a little bit too quick, I think.
Andy under the brakes, on the brakes, going into turn 6, and that's let Mariano close up a lot.
Oh, wow.
Andy being far too cautious on this final lap. They're
final
bumper
corner.
to bumper, final corner.
Oh, unbelievable stuff here. I think Andy's going to, if he he does go defensive. He's done just enough, and it will be victory in round 7 going to Andy. What a superb race at the end there. I think Mariano just messed up his gears at the final corner, which didn't allow him to get the best exit.
Well, I'm sorry. Yeah, look at this. Santiago from Strings coming out just in front of Felipe. This is going to be the battle for 3rd. So this is some crazy stuff. We had a close battle for 1st. Now we've got a battle for 3rd. Last step on the podium. What do you think Felipe can do here?
Well, Felipe needs to be very careful, because they've also got a back marker. That is Wellington ahead. And Santiago's on the brakes, which is a very odd place to be on the brakes on a straight, but clearly feeling the need to get the car under control. Mariano will take some solace from the fact that he managed to get the fastest race over Andy, so stopping Andy from getting another triple crown. Here comes Santiago. This back marker really not doing them any favours. Felipe is going to have every opportunity to try and get past. Watch out, Wellington. Oh, and
Wellington hits him.
I have no words for that.
That is just not getting out of the way. He should have had blue flags all over his screen there. And he was good earlier in the race. He let past the leaders, but that's just a massive shame there. Wellington's gone into Santiago and lost him the last step on the podium.
Well, there we are. Felipe did take 3rd place in the end, thanks to Wellington. He can thank Wellington for that one. Santiago had that under control until that moment. Then it'll be Ian for Bundles, who had a bit of a quiet race after his incident at the first corner, spearing into Eduardo, who didn't have a great race at all. William Frintlink, Brazil, P6, Valentina, P7, Eduardo, P8, and P9 for Wellington on our timing screens. But we will get full classification of those results right now. Adam, run down the final classified result, please.
So yeah, Andy from Strings just managing to hold on there with a tiny gap back to Mariano. I believe that might be the smallest gap we've had the whole season.
I'll have
In
to check. Yeah.
second, and in third, Felipe. I must say, very lucky there at the end. Santiago just getting caught out by Wellington, one of the back markers here. And in fourth, yep, over those two, over a minute behind the leaders. Definitely a big disparity there. If definitely bigger than what we saw in qualifying. So obviously not just outright pace that Andy and Mariano are good at, it's race pace as well. Fifth, we've got Ian from Bundles, a lap behind. Sixth, William from Interlink Brazil, 2 laps behind. Valentina, who timed out and had to rejoin the race, in 10th. Eduardo, who again rejoined the race, pitted and left the pits again in 8th. Wellington, who did the same and also finished behind Eduardo in 9th, rounding out the grid.
Thank you, Adam. Well, I think it's time for us to grab some interviews, and I think the first person we all want to hear from is Andy. Andy, you're in the commentary box. Can you hear me?
Yeah, hi. I can hear you. Yes, just give me a second to calm down.
Yeah. So how are the sweat
Very
levels?
exciting. Yeah.
Looked like a
That
pretty
was
sweaty
very
race.
hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I think the first question that we wanted to ask you at the end of qualifying, where did that pace come from? Have you been doing a lot of offline practice? What's been going on there?
Marianne and me, we had a practice session and we gave each other our setups to take a look at it. And then I thought, okay, I could try something that is completely different in his setup. That gave me maybe some 10th, but I don't know where that was. It 1:11:50 or something? No, that was just a lucky punch.
Well, I mean, before today's race, you'd done over 900 laps of practice, and your best time today was over half a second faster than anything we've seen from you before. So that is quite quite an impressive leap, and it turned out to be everything you needed. Tell us that last lap. Did you think you'd lost it?
Yeah, I saw in the qualifying, I saw my tire temperatures going very high, and I thought, okay, that will be a long race. And after the incident in turn 1, when I lost Mariano in the mirror, I thought of, okay, keep it cool, keep the tires cool, make it safe. But I saw him coming and with big steps. So I had to push harder, and the tire temperature got very, very high. So I couldn't do good lap times. And in the end, also the clutch temperature was going high. I had to be very careful not to have DNF.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was quite an exciting final few laps. Mariano managed to close down a 10-second deficit after turn 1 and convert it into 0.36 of a second at the line. He was all over the rear of your car at the final corner. Absolutely awesome stuff. Not quite the clean sweep today. He did take the fastest lap, but you must be happy to make it 3 from 3 race wins.
Absolutely, and I knew his pace was very, very fast. I just didn't try to get that fastest lap, just not risk anything, not risk any damage to the car. And I saw him rushing to my back, and okay, I just had to pray, and I had the lucky end. There was no way to keep him off in a normal race.
Yeah, your teammate didn't have so much luck today. Santiago got into a pretty unfortunate incident at the beginning of the race, and then also at the end, he was clinging on to a podium position, and then one of your colleagues from Interlink Argentina had something to say about that on the final corner. I'm sure you'll look into that after the race. But yeah, for your team, not the perfect afternoon, but pretty good going forward into round 8. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, after that was a lucky one. I'm looking forward to race number 8, and I think the gap is now 3 points or something like that. And I don't know how the gap is in the team standings, but it will a very exciting finish, that title race, both constructors and drivers. And I even don't know which track is next week. It was just thrilling this week.
Well, we hope to see you next week. And yes, hopefully you can put on a show as good as that one. Thank you, Andy.
Yeah, thank you guys. See you. Bye.
Adam, maybe you've got a few words for Mariano.
Yeah, Mariano. Well, after quite a hectic turn one, you made a good shot at that. Coming back and got very close on the final lap. How are you feeling?
Very upset. I can't hide it. Somebody just took me off in turn one. So yeah, not much to do after, but hope for the best. The gap was huge, so I kept pushing. I kept putting in fastest laps as much as I could, but it was obviously not enough. It's too bad.
Yeah, Andy was saying you traded setups before the race. Is that something you won't be doing in the future? Because obviously it's given it Andy quite a benefit there.
No, I would never stop doing that. He's a big friend for a long time, and we don't. This is not that kind of league. I think we would stop enjoying it the minute we start being, I don't know, overzealous and just trying at all costs to beat the other one. At the end of the day, he won the race, and I'm still happy for him. If it weren't far apart, we'd probably catch up and grab a beer afterwards and talk about it. Yeah.
And yeah, you obviously had some brilliant pace in there. Were you not expecting Andy to be that fast? Were you sort of expecting to have an easy shot at the win today?
It's never fully easy. I mean, you've seen turn one, but yeah, he surprised me in the qualifying. I didn't know he had that pace. I guess he spent more time with the setup, and he just brought that pace with him. That was good. I liked I knew that I could be consistent, and I was hoping for a race. Again, I didn't get to battle him on track. It's always a catching up game. But yeah, hopefully, stay out of trouble the next one. I still don't know what happened. I would like to see the replay and see what happened in turn one.
Yeah, but I believe bit of a racing incident involving Eduardo and Ian. But yeah, definitely bit of a shame in turn one, but
that just keeps happening, doesn't it?
It does seem to be a bit of a theme for the last few races, but you've got to be encouraged. You managed to steal the fastest lap away at least this time.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm sure you guys enjoyed it, given that you're big fans of Andy's work.
Absolutely, it was a fun last few laps. We weren't sure whether you were going to be able to close him down, but you did a pretty great job, and it looked like just a botched gear at the final corner that just cost you.
Yeah, absolutely. I was losing time. I was just, too many thoughts, I guess, too many things happening, and I was sure there would be a chance. I was sure that maybe a back marker, but no, the back markers have behaved really nicely. Good. It's a good thing. It just didn't play into my advantage this time, but yeah, we'll see in the next.
Yeah, not true for everybody today, but we'll see that on the replay, I'm sure. Thank you very much for joining us in the commentary box, Mariano. See you next time.
Thanks. Take care.
Doesn't look like we can talk to our third place driver, Felipe, for bundles. That's a shame, but yeah, we'll have to sign off here, Adam. Well, give me your final thoughts on the race. Again, clearly Mariano very upset that he couldn't get the win, having shown that he certainly had the pace for this one.
Well, yeah, we came into this round knowing that it was going to be a bit of a crazy one, with it being mixed surface and all, and I think it delivered. It was very exciting in those last few laps. Definitely what we signed up for.
Definitely what we signed up for, and yeah, a thrilling showdown at the end between those two. Well, what can they manage next time out when we head to round number 8? That'll be coming to you in Live for Speed from Fern Bay Gold. We've been to Fern Bay this season already. We were at Fern Bay Green. We've been to it plenty of times last season, so it's an environment that the drivers should be pretty familiar with by now. But we have some new faces, and turn 1 seems to be plaguing Mariano. Can he get away cleanly at round 8? We hope to see you then. From all of us here to all of you, have a great day. See you at round 8 next week. Goodbye.